Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents U.S. Presidents for Dummies, 2nd edition, by Marcus A. Stadelmann. Narrated by Rick Adamson. Publisher's Note: this audiobook refers to figures, appendices, and tables included in the print and e-book editions of the book. Limit of liability disclaimer of warranty. While the publisher and author have used their best efforts in preparing this book, they make no representations or warranties with respect to the accuracy or completeness of the contents of this book, and specifically disclaim any implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. No warranty may be created or extended by sales representatives or written sales materials. The advice and strategies contained herein may not be suitable for your situation. You should consult with a professional where appropriate. Neither the publisher nor the author shall be liable for damages arising herefrom. Introduction. Over the last 231 years, 44 men have dominated U.S. politics and history. Although almost every American can name the current president, less than half can tell you the name of the vice president or the Senate majority leader. No other office within the U.S. government has received as much attention as the presidency. The successes and failures of the chief executive have become a staple of U.S. culture. Every year, the media spends thousands of hours disseminating information on their virtues and shortcomings. Their biographies become bestsellers. The public marvels at their childhood plights and adult accomplishments. Stories about their personal lives and office conduct have become ingrained in American culture and literature. The public revels in the president's personal shortcomings and failures, and eagerly laps up scandals involving them. From Jefferson's affair with a slave, to the corruption of the Grant and Harding administrations, to Bill Clinton's and Donald Trump's sex scandals, the public is mesmerized by the presidents and their activities. From humble beginnings, the presidency has evolved over time to become the dominant institution in the U.S. government. People look to the president for guidance in times of crisis. He, and so far all of our presidents have been men, is held responsible for the problems the country faces and is expected to resolve these problems. In addition, the president symbolizes the United States abroad. Other countries judge the United States by what kind of president is in power. A bad president reflects poorly on all U.S. citizens. About this book. Most books on the U.S. presidency are either textbooks, which are usually boring and tedious, or autobiographies. Although autobiographies are interesting reading, they provide you with information on just one president, and face it, who has time to read 44 biographies? This book is neither a textbook nor a biography. It combines the best elements of both. It won't bore you with little tedious facts or a lot of narrative. It doesn't shower you with a mass of statistics that prove to you what you already know. The information on the presidents gets to the point, highlighting only the major events of each presidency. The book covers all 44 U.S. presidents in chronological order. Some presidents have a whole chapter to themselves. Others have a section in a chapter that covers several chief executives. I detail some basic personal information for each president, and I also cover the major events that took place during each president's administration. I designed this book to give a solid foundation on the presidents, whether you're studying political science, writing a paper, or reading for pleasure. I tried to make the book entertaining by including little-known tidbits. So whether you're a history buff, a student, or just someone interested in America's presidents, this book is for you. My hope is that this book will prove one point: the history of our presidents is fascinating and fun. Conventions used in this book. To avoid repeating certain procedures, facts, and ideas, this book uses certain conventions. For example, I use the common abbreviations WW1 and WW2 to refer to World War I and World War II, respectively. I also use familiar presidential initials, such as FDR for Franklin Delano Roosevelt and JFK for John Fitzgerald Kennedy. I also provide some information in a consistent format. Early in a president's section or chapter, I include a sidebar that talks about his early years, when he was born, where he lived, what schools he attended, if he attended school at all, and whom he married. First ladies sometimes crop up in other places, but the facts about them are usually in these sidebars. Icons used in this book. As you read and enjoy this book, you will discover 5 different icons that alert you to specific aspects of America's 44 presidents. The 5 icons are presidential lore. This icon represents little-known information or trivia on the 44 presidents. Many of the presidents coined terms or set precedents for the presidency and the country. This icon alerts you to this type of information. In their words, this icon alerts you to famous statements or quotes made by the presidents. Some quotes you may be familiar with, and others you may not know. Some may shock you, and others may amuse you. Political stuff. Politics is at the heart of the U.S. presidency. This icon highlights political conflicts and positions. It covers the personal views of some presidents and the controversial issues of the day. Remember, this icon points out important information you should be aware of as you read the section, the chapter, or the book. This icon covers only the most important events, people, and issues. Technical stuff. Historical information, including treaties, important bills, strategic doctrines, and other relevant material or events, have this icon beside them. This information is included for the history buff, so feel free to ignore these paragraphs if you're not interested. Beyond the book. In addition to what you're reading right now, this book comes with a free Access Anywhere cheat sheet that includes key dates in U.S. presidential history. To get this cheat sheet, simply go to dummies.com and type U.S. Presidents for Dummies cheat sheet in the search box. You also get access to 27 online practice tests. To gain access to the online practice tests, all you have to do is register. Just follow these simple steps. 1. Register your book or ebook at dummies.com to get your PIN. Go to dummies.com/go/get-access. 2. Select your product from the drop-down list on that page. 3. Follow the prompts to validate your product, and then check your email for a confirmation message that includes your PIN and instructions for logging in. If you do not receive this email within 2 hours, please check your spam folder before contacting us through our technical support website at support.wiley.com or by phone at 877-762-2974. Now you're ready to go. You can come back to the practice material as often as you want. Simply log on with the username and password you created during your initial login. No need to enter the access code a second time. Your registration is good for 1 year from the day you activate your PIN. Where to go from here? Feel free to start with any chapter and any president that interests you. Keep in mind that all the chapters are non-linear, so you can start with any topic in any chapter. 1. Understanding U.S. Presidents. In this part, discover the constitutional powers of the president, such as the veto power, and also some informal powers, such as the power to manipulate public opinion. In addition, find out about the evolution of the presidency from a weak ceremonial post to the imperial presidency of modern times. Examine the way we evaluate and rank presidents and their administrations. Uncover academic rankings of our presidents, and look at upward and downward movement of some presidents. Chapter 1. Presidents and the Presidency. In this chapter, setting up a government for the United States, understanding the influence of the president, seeing how the president shapes public opinion, looking at the president's many roles. This chapter looks at the U.S. presidency. It talks about how the U.S. system of government was established. It also discusses the Constitution and the evolution of the presidency from a weak ceremonial post, such as the presidency of James Madison, to the imperial presidency of FDR. Today we find a stalemate between the presidency and Congress, resulting in much bargaining and compromising and the occasional government shutdown. In addition, the chapter covers formal powers the president possesses, such as the power to cast a veto. Finally, the president has been granted or assumed some special informal powers, especially the power to manipulate public opinion. The discussion of these informal powers rounds out the chapter. Establishing the first U.S. government. In 1774, 12 colonies, Georgia refused to attend, agreed to get together and set up a united legislature, or Continental Congress, to speak with one voice against British oppression. The Continental Congress turned into a national legislature during the Revolutionary War and stuck around after independence was declared, assuming the functions of a new national government. In 1781, the Congress passed the Articles of Confederation, creating a confederation between the 13 former colonies. After the states agreed on the Articles of Confederation, the Congress renamed itself the Congress of the Confederation and became a weak federal legislature. It was without real powers, including the power to tax or the power to create a national army. The real power remained within the 13 states. The Congress survived until the Constitution created a new form of government in 1789, and the Congress of the United States replaced the Congress of the Confederation. Technical stuff. A confederation is a form of government where power rests at the state level and not at the national level. Facing problems. The Confederation system caused immediate problems for the new country. Without the power to tax, the Congress could not support a large military, which was dangerous with the British, Russian, and Spanish empires still in North America. The war bonds sold to finance the war against Britain presented another problem. With the war over and the national government unable to tax, nobody redeemed the bonds. Many patriotic people who bought war bonds to support the war for independence lost their life savings when they couldn't redeem the bonds. Not surprisingly, people complained. Trade became a problem, with the states treating each other like they were foreign countries. How can a united country be established when its members impose trade restrictions against each other? Writing a constitution. By 1785, many prominent politicians in the United States were worried. They felt that the new country was in serious trouble and that the new government created by the Articles of Confederation was not working. For this purpose, a national meeting in Philadelphia was called to change or revise the Articles of Confederation. This meeting, also referred to as the Constitutional Convention, began in May 1787. Its original purpose was just to change the Articles of Confederation, not to write a new constitution. The convention lasted until September 1787, when the delegates actually overstepped their authority and voted to approve a new constitution for the country. Instead of revising the Articles of Confederation, the delegates created a brand new document, the Constitution of the United States. They felt that a revision of the Articles of Confederation would not accomplish the task of creating a strong, united country. So they wrote a brand new document instead, abolishing the Articles of Confederation and setting up a new form of government. The Constitution called for the following: the creation of a federal republic, where the states and the national/federal government shared powers, a bicameral Congress with 2 chambers, the House of Representatives, selected by the people, and the Senate, equally represented by the states, with each state sending 2 senators, an executive or president elected by an electoral college every 4 years, a Supreme Court nominated by the President and ratified by the Senate. Drawing up the presidency. During the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia in 1787, the hottest topic was what kind of executive to have. Some wanted a strong executive, even a king. Others wanted a weak executive at the mercy of Congress. Some even proposed multiple executives, with more than one president serving in the various areas of government. Remember, James Wilson, a delegate from Pennsylvania, was responsible for the presidency we have today. During the debate, he based the modern presidency on the New York and Massachusetts state constitutions. Technical stuff. One of the big questions at the Constitutional Convention was whether to create a parliamentary system or a presidential republic. In a parliamentary system, the legislature, not the citizens, selects the executive. Chosen by the majority, the executive's party always controls the legislature. In a presidential republic, voters choose the president. This can result in a divided government, with one party controlling the legislature and the other the presidency. A presidential system, such as the form the United States adopted, creates moderate policies involving lots of compromise, because the executive and Congress have to bargain with each other to be successful. In a parliamentary system, the executive always gets what he or she wants because it controls the legislature. Being unique. The system of checks and balances is a feature unique to the United States. The delegates at the convention wanted to make sure that the president wouldn't dominate the new government, so they implemented many checks on his power. Congress and the Supreme Court can check the president in the areas the delegates considered the most important, resulting in this system of checks and balances. These areas include treaty-making, war-making, and especially the power to declare war, which was given to Congress. Congress and the Supreme Court further received the power to override a president's veto and to remove him from office if necessary. Today, the president is the most powerful politician on earth, but he has to share a lot of his powers with Congress. Over the next 2 centuries, the power and influence of the presidency developed and changed. The Electoral College. The Electoral College, established by the Constitution, consists of electors who have the power to choose the president and vice president. The first Electoral College, which met in 1789, consisted of representatives from all the states that ratified the Constitution. Depending on the state, either the people or the state legislatures chose the respective delegates for the Electoral College. In the Electoral College, each delegate cast 2 ballots. Whoever won the most votes became the President of the United States. The runner-up was named the Vice President. This system led to confusion. In 1800, Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr received the same number of votes, even though most electors favored Jefferson for president and Burr for vice president. The electors had to cast 2 ballots without being able to differentiate between president and vice president. The 12th Amendment fixed the system in 1804 by mandating separate ballots for the president and vice president. In 1961, the 23rd Amendment allowed the District of Columbia to cast 3 votes in the Electoral College, even though it doesn't have statehood. Today, the electors in the Electoral College represent all 50 states and the District of Columbia. The electors, in turn, are chosen by their respective state legislatures. Each party, Democrats and Republicans, draws up a list of electors. Whichever party wins the state in the presidential election gets to use its list in the Electoral College. The only exceptions to this rule are found in Maine and Nebraska, where 1 electoral vote goes to the winner of each congressional district in the state, and 2 votes go to the winner of the state itself. The number of electors representing each state equals the number of members of Congress, members of the House of Representatives plus the 2 senators for each state. Today, there are 538 total votes in the Electoral College, and a candidate has to win 270 to become president. If nobody has a majority in the Electoral College, the vote goes into the House of Representatives. Granting formal presidential powers. The Constitution, even though a brief document, sets aside Article 2 to discuss the presidency. Article 2 outlines the Electoral College and the powers of the President. The Constitution formally mentions the following powers in Section 2 and Section 3 of Article 2 of the Constitution. The powers are listed in the order found in the Constitution. Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. This power has caused much controversy. Many presidents have interpreted it to mean that they have the power to make war. Congress, on the other hand, has the constitutional power to declare war. The War Powers Act of 1973, discussed later in this chapter, further contributes to the controversy surrounding this power. Granting reprieves and pardons. The President has the power to pardon anyone for federal offenses. The only exception is impeachment. The President cannot pardon someone who has been impeached. Making treaties. The President has the power to negotiate treaties with foreign countries. All treaties have to be approved by the Senate with a 2/3 majority. Appointing Supreme Court justices and ambassadors. The President has the power to appoint justices of the U.S. Supreme Court and ambassadors. In both instances, the Senate has to approve his choices. Convening Congress to special sessions. In emergency situations, the President has the power to call Congress into a special session. Receiving ambassadors. The President has the right to receive foreign ambassadors and other foreign dignitaries to discuss policy with them. Ensuring that the laws are faithfully executed. That's all the Constitution says about this power. Today, presidents interpret it as the power to make policy, as outlined in the annual budget the President submits to Congress. Vetoing legislation. Additional powers of the President are found in Article 1, Section 7. Even though Article 1 deals mainly with congressional powers, it does discuss the veto power of the President. According to Section 7, the President possesses the power to veto legislation passed by Congress. He has 10 days to veto a bill and has to explain to Congress why he cast the veto. Congress then has the option to override a president's veto. This requires a 2/3 majority in both houses of Congress. If Congress passes a bill within 10 days of adjourning, the President can cast a pocket veto. All he has to do is let the bill sit on his desk until Congress adjourns, and the bill has been vetoed. Pocket vetoes cannot be overridden because Congress has no chance to vote on the veto. Most vetoes stand or are not overridden by Congress. Less than 4% of all vetoes in U.S. history have been overridden. Interpreting presidential powers. The Constitution is not very specific on presidential powers. Many are vague and open to broad interpretation. For example, does to faithfully execute the laws mean that a president just observes Congress and then makes congressional legislation law? Or can the president make laws himself? As Commander-in-Chief, is the President just some kind of super general reacting to Congress, which has the power to declare war, or is he the supreme war maker in the United States? It is thus left up to the President to define his role. Different men who have held the office have interpreted their powers differently. For example, in 1861, after President Lincoln took office and before Congress reconvened, Lincoln unilaterally reacted to the attack on Fort Sumter by the Confederacy, see Chapter 10. He defined the role of Commander-in-Chief by taking over the war effort himself. In addition, he single-handedly freed the slaves in the Confederacy with the Emancipation Proclamation. He felt his actions were justified by the emergency of the Civil War. Lincoln's predecessor, James Buchanan, however, believed that his powers did not extend to preventing the Southern states from leaving the Union, so he refused to act when the first Southern states left the Union and created the Confederacy. Examining presidential influence on the presidency. Just as the president is a living, breathing person, the presidency is a living, breathing institution. The men who have so far filled the office have put their own unique stamp on the office, for better or worse. The following sections give you some examples. During the period from 1789 to 1824, most U.S. presidents were prominent men known to most U.S. citizens. They included many of our founding fathers and others who had served their country valiantly in the Revolutionary War. With the exception of John Adams, each of the first 5 presidents served 2 terms, bringing a measure of stability to the young country. They legitimized the new government, or, in other words, they created public support for the new form of government. Even if one disagreed with the new form of government created by the Constitution, how could one oppose George Washington as president? These presidents set the foundation for the United States. However, during this time period, Congress dominated and made most decisions for the United States. The president was considered to be a caretaker, and his job was to implement policies passed by Congress. Challenging Congress. Andrew Jackson. When Andrew Jackson assumed office in 1829, he believed that he had a mandate from the people, and that it was his job to not only implement policies passed by Congress, but to make his own. He saw himself as a guardian of the people, with a mission to protect them from the excesses of Congress. He challenged Congress and vetoed major congressional legislation. Jackson actually vetoed more legislation than all of his predecessors combined. Jackson's interpretation of a powerful president disappeared with him. His successors perceived their role as one of reacting to Congress. With the exception of Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, and Woodrow Wilson, all presidents for the next century subordinated themselves to Congress. Congress made policy for the United States, and the presidents passively endorsed it. Creating the Imperial Presidency. Franklin Roosevelt. With the Great Depression hitting the country hard in 1929 and World War II, WW2, starting in Europe in 1939, the U.S. public looked for strong leadership. Remember, they found it in Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Starting with his election in 1932, FDR single-handedly created the Imperial Presidency. The term Imperial Presidency was the title of a book by historian Arthur M. Schlesinger, Jr., published in 1973. In the book, Schlesinger argues that the presidency has become too powerful and has usurped powers from Congress. The term stuck and is still used today. FDR was responsible for the New Deal programs, which greatly enhanced the powers of the presidency by establishing a large federal bureaucracy over which the president presides. Roosevelt put a massive welfare state in place, see Chapter 16, and had government take an active role in the economy. FDR made it the business of the president to take care of the U.S. public. Foreign policy also came to the forefront when FDR took over in 1933. He moved the United States to support the Allies during WW2. During the war, he met with Allied leaders and hammered out major agreements. The subsequent Cold War further involved the United States in global affairs. The trend of the president dominating foreign policy continued, and presidents today are the foreign policy leaders in the United States. By the time Lyndon Johnson assumed the presidency in 1963, Congress was reacting to the president, who now made both domestic and foreign policy for the country. Dethroning the Imperial Presidency. Richard Nixon. In 1974, Richard Nixon destroyed the Imperial Presidency with the Watergate scandal and its aftermath. Congress saw the executive position weakened and took this chance to restore some of the power it had lost to the president. The most visible changes Congress imposed were in the areas of foreign policy and budget policies, when Congress passed the War Powers Act in 19...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?